Hello, it's Scott Manley here with episode 37 of Interstellar Quest, and this is my first 3-meter rocket. We've previously been using the large fairings, it's actually 3.75 meters, People say 1 meter, 2 meter, and 3 meter, when in fact it's 1.25, 2.5, and 3.75, so yeah. We've previously used these large fairings, but they always looked kind of ridiculous because they had such a narrow rocket underneath it. At least now the rocket is starting to scale up to something sensible looking, even if I can't steer it worth a toffee. I don't know what's going on there, but the thing did not want to fly straight. I have not yet unlocked 3.75 meter rocket engines, so I had to kind of improvise on each stage to put something important on there, something that looked the part, let's say. So on the bottom, I clustered a whole bunch of engines together. You use the little docking ports there. You can see I have 14 vents there. That's actually that's a total of 7 engines on there. Obviously, it would have been bad if I did it with a 4-way symmetry. It would have looked like a certain symbol that people would complain about. So yeah, we are, with the science that we got from Minmus, we unlocked these parts, and as such, we're going back to Minmus because we want to start using its low gravity and, planetoid-sized resources to act as something of a base for future exploration and fuel supply. Now, in Minmus you can in fact mine liquid water, and we all know that liquid water can be converted into hydrogen and oxygen. Now, in Interstellar mod version 0.92, we do not have, by default, liquid water available on the surface of Minmus. However, I have been talking with a developer, and he seems to think that it's a good idea. Ooh, I like the sound of that engine, by the way. He thinks that it's a good idea to have liquid water available, even although, it looks like ice. There we go, let's get this thing. I wonder, we've got the whole thing behind the fairing. I guess we're 60 kilometers up. Time to shed this in the name of, science. Look at that. Beautiful. I love the way this thing fits inside there. You will see this thing deploy, and I am so darn proud of the way this thing fits, because those are the ISRU refinery units, and those are really hard to build into spacecraft. Yeah, so as I was saying previously, this is new me, obviously old me. When he had recorded this, we were still recording on 0.92, but now that I look this morning, Interstellar mod 0.10 was released, and it has added ice, or rather liquid water, as a resource on the surface of Minmus. So I may not be in the correct place. I don't actually know because I haven't tried it, and I will not be trying the bleeding edge version of Interstellar until I'm sure that it has no bugs in it, because right now bugs are a big thing. So anyway, yeah, we're going straight to Minmus, and it looks like I've actually chosen a pretty good launch window here. I more or less go straight into a Minmus encounter with just a little bit of tweaking here and there. There we go. And apparently I messed that up just a little. They're 140 something kilometers above the surface. That'll do. 70, 60, 70. Yeah. Sneaking it down. Obviously you want to get as close as possible because of the whole O-berth effect, which is now a common thing that everybody knows about. Rotate the whole vehicle around to point at my maneuver node and time accelerate. So yeah, I for a long time wanted to do a lot of stuff with the Interstellar features, but before I had a chance to launch something, they switched from using the science lab to using the refinery. And the refinery basically has 2 attach points, neither of which are particularly useful, and it's really big, so it doesn't fit into any fairings until you get to the 3.75 meter expanded fairings. You'll see how this deploys here. I wanted to build a relatively cool looking spacecraft. Oh wow, I'm gonna encounter the moon if I miss Minmus. If I miss Minmus, yeah. If I miss Minmus, Never mind. And there we are. It's really nice to use alarm clock for these things. So we're going to fly past the planet, and then we're going to kill our velocity when we're close. So there we go. Set our timer. Just fly in there, skip across the boundary, and set ourselves a maneuver node. Fly in, I'm going to set the timer on that, 2 hours away. That way, by setting the timer, I don't skip past it, which is a real danger when I'm really trying to accelerate through things. But thankfully, we have 4 times time acceleration, so you don't need to sit and wait while I do all these things. So that's me putting my spacecraft into an orbit which will pass just slightly above the surface. Actually, no, this will crash into the surface. So I need to turn the whole thing around and bring the periaps up to about 10 kilometers. Now, Minmus as a moon is some enigma, as in all the science says that it has ice on it, but clearly it's too close to the sun to have ice on it. So my personal theory is something along the lines of it being a recently captured body with a crust of inert material or non-volatile material, and then several meters down you get to the volatile material. And because thermal conduction happens very slowly and sublimation of ice takes away a lot of heat, the planet is slowly evaporating, but not evaporating so slowly that we need to concern about it disappearing completely. It's probably a recently captured moon or something like that. Regardless, KSP Interstellar now says that it has ice. At least I've edited it to do that. And that ice I will convert into fuel using the power of electrolysis. Now, given my lack of skill in modding, I have just put a uniform quantity of ice all over the surface. I mean, the limiting factor really is going to be my ability to take power, and I'm going to use beamed power to power this whole thing. But I think there should be enough all over the surface. The developer, Fractal UK, I think he's working on some sort of map, so it's entirely likely that by the time I actually upgrade, I will find that I've set this thing down in a place where there is no ice in the actual mod. So if you are in fact using Interstellar mod, just beware that unless you modify it or they have released a new version, you are not going to find ice on the surface of Minmus that you can refine or electrolyze into that sweet, sweet rocket fuel that we all know and love. So yeah, I gotta stress that Minmus is unlike the moon. And when I say that, I mean our moon, the real moon, not the moon. Right? In this case, it is covered with water somewhere underneath the surface. Our moon, as far as we know, is incredibly dry in comparison. Most of the oxygen is bound to things like silicas and aluminium. It's not bound to water, right? It's not bound to hydrogen, sorry. So this means that the moon is very dry, and one theory behind this is that during the formation of the moon, the moon, one good theory for the formation of the moon is a large planetesimal hits the Earth that's forming and basically creates a giant explosion, a giant gas cloud of dust and stuff comes off, forms into a flat ring disc around the Earth, and then that condenses into the moon. Now, if you think about it, the really light stuff, the water, the ammonia, the volatiles, that stuff would take longer to condense than the silicas, the aluminium oxide, things like that. And so what you'd get is preferentially the non-volatile materials would form the moon. And so you would be left with a low volatile planet in the end, or planetoid. And that's what they're working with here. Now, of course, there's supposedly traces of water at the poles, and if there's a great amount, that would be great, because, of course, if you can mine water from the moon, you can electrolyze it into hydrogen and oxygen, you can use it as rocket fuel, or you can use it for breathing and drinking and growing food and keeping people alive. Anyway, we are getting very close to the magic moment where I show how this thing gets deployed. So first of all, we detach that, and then we start to fold. Come on, fold out. These things are not moving as fast as I would like. And we get some phantom spinny stuff going on. What's going on here? Oh, wait, I still have the cap attached. Got to detach this. Hold on. Decouple. Whoa! There we go. That was some pent-up rage there. Okay, so that is the landing pad, or that is the thing. So we basically folded those up inside the fairing like that. It's rather beautiful. And then we have these two power antennas. I just want to make sure the whole thing is folded out completely. And in the middle, we have the actual fuel tank, and we have some rocket engines. We have some little radial engines in the middle there. You have some lights, and we'll also have some toolboxes and stuff so that when the spacecraft come by, they can land and use the supplies on hand to make sure they refill their spacecraft. There, look at that. That looks like I don't know, it looks kind of cool. I'm going to turn it this way. The reason is because I want the axis of these antennas, see these power receivers, I want that to be aligned along the rotation of the planet. So we'll angle them 90 degrees to each other, and we will maximize our ability to get energy from that satellite down there. Okay, now it's just a case of very carefully putting this thing down on the surface, ever so gently, using these Rocamax radial engines, the super lightweight but incredibly noisy for their size. We're about 2.5 kilometers up, and we're descending at about 24 meters per second. It's going to take us 100 seconds to get to the surface at this rate, and 100 seconds during which I have to try not to ruin things and kill everyone. Not to ruin things and crash my very expensive and really nicely folded, nicely packaged spacecraft into the surface. The hardest part of all this, incidentally, was making sure that all the landing legs actually folded up to the same altitude, to the same height. The Infernal Robotics, for some reason, the rotation button in the vehicle assembly building doesn't appear to actually rotate the parts according to the direction they are supposed to be rotated. They just seem to rotate them on the spot, which is not very useful. So I have to kind of bring the object out onto the launch pad, deploy it, see if the things are roughly the same height, and then adjust those middle ones until everything came to approximately the same. So now we're about to pass the 1 kilometer mark. 1 kilometer, yay! We are on approach. We're doing just fine. We're killed most of our lateral velocity now. It is just a case of falling with style towards that surface and trying to make our mark. Set up our base. We don't want to make a mark on the surface with the spacecraft. That would be unfortunate. Make a big hole. No. We want to be the last chance for gas, the last chance for fuel. So we'll be able to have spacecraft come down, park next to it, refuel, and then lift off. I'm starting to see some patterns down there. Very carefully want to put this thing down here. 300 meters to go. 20 seconds away, more or less, if I don't adjust my velocity. But I will be adjusting my velocity because I want to land this with all the care of somebody that's really good at landing it. And 110 meters, 100 meters, descending at 7 meters per second. Almost there. Down to 5 meters per second. Taking things ever so gently here. Oh, there's the shadow. Look at that. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful touchdown. And the good thing is, it's not going to flip over or anything because it's got such a wide base. Look at that. Now we are totally ready to start our refining. Let's fold. There we go. So we'll turn these roughly 45 degrees. Activate our receivers. Hopefully one of them, that one's going to start getting power. And then that will be sufficient to power these ISRUs. Begin to extract water. How do I do this? Do I extract the water? Can each one only do one thing at a time? Do I have to electrolyze on this side? No, that's not working. Well, we do have liquid water here. And we're not generating fuel. Nope. Don't think we're generating fuel at all. I guess I need to... Can I electrolyze at the same time? I hope I don't have to click back and forth. Electrolyze. Aha! Oh, right, so that's totally working. So we're bringing in water and electrolyzing at the same time. My, these things are versatile. I mean, they really are versatile. They do a lot of things in Interstellar. They can, get hydrogen peroxide and ammonia and various other things. So there's all sorts of chemical processes. I'd like to have done Mars Direct, but our Duna people will get there first, so we're not going to be doing that. And I suspect the next time we have a launch window for Duna happening, we're going to have Interstellar Drive, warp drive. So we get 280 megawatts. Our power demand is 160 megawatts. So yeah, the water extractors take 40 megawatts. Presumably, that's what they're using to melt the ice and suck it up. And then another 40 to electrolyze it. And out the other end comes liquid fuel and oxidizer. And oxidizer seems to be coming a lot faster. I suspect that the developer is treating is doing the calculation based on mass rather than, say, chemical contents or whatever. So it looks like we're going to have a vast amount of excess oxidizer. But the good thing is that the water is highly unlikely to run out. Now just watch, as the planet Kerbal moves towards the horizon, at some point that antenna will close up and we will stop getting power and we'll have to shut down for the night. Now there it goes, although that could be because the transmission station is in orbit around Kerbal. Oh yeah, we need to extrude these antenna. Still haven't got remote tech working again. But we'll get that when it's fixed. And we also want to deploy our radiators because we don't want to overheat ourselves. Waste heat is building up. But all the same, we can get rid of it through these radiators. There we go, that is base 1. And this is a new version of the aircraft that I designed during I showed during the live design phase. So this is slightly longer. It has slightly bigger wings. It has certainly bigger wings at the front. It has a longer fuel tank. Inside we have a bit more experimental hardware, and we are going to go all the way to Minmus in it. Because we can. If we can get off the runway. Come on! Come on! Come on! Yes, okay. Also note, you can just about see it. There's a little girder sticking down because I have such a bad record on smashing engines into runways that I thought I've been strapping girders onto the back there to protect myself from my own stupidity. So yeah, this thing on paper has barely enough fuel to actually get to Minmus. There is a small amount of reserve fuel in that cargo bay. There's also materials experiment and some goo, and we have experiments up front. Whole idea is we're going to fly out to Minmus and demonstrate that it is indeed possible. So this will be our first single stage to Minmus. Idea, of course, is that once we're there, we will refuel and we will be able to come back. I mean, it doesn't take much fuel to come back from Minmus. You only need about 300 or something meters per second, but all the same, if we have excess fuel, if we refuel this thing at Minmus, we should be able to fly to a bunch of biomes and collect piles of science and do all sorts of, fascinating sciencey type stuff once we're there. The real one other constraint I have to be careful about is that I've only got 12 Kerbal days worth of life support, and it's entirely likely that I could exceed my life support requirements if I don't leave quickly. So that's another important thing to be considered. Other than that, the airplane is pretty much the same design that we previously had. I adjusted the tail because it gave me slightly better responsiveness. Yeah, just more or less. The other trick with this is that I don't have the cooler. So what happens is my engine temperature starts to rise, and the trick here is to fly it at just the right profile that as your engines are about to overheat, they switch over to the closed cycle so that you get the maximum benefit of the atmosphere cycle, and you get you don't explode, because exploding engines, not great for flying into space. I'm not even sure how stable this is if the engine explodes, although good news is that if the engine does explode, it probably moves the center of mass forward, and we're probably fine. On the other hand, it looks like the tailplane may actually be attached to the engine, and so if we lose the engine, that could be bad in terms of stability, because aircraft are not known for their ability to fly with tailplanes. They tend to have problems with yaw control if they don't have that. Anyway, yes, we are going to head off to Minmus. We're going to put ourselves into orbit first, but I think given that I'm past the 20-minute mark, it's time for me to say I'm Scott Manley. See you next time, and Sidzi Kerman, Dildred Kerman, and everyone out there, fly safe.